I was watching Shane Van Gisbergen at Michigan, and I remember thinking, this doesn't make sense. 7 days ago, this man looked like the most dangerous driver in NASCAR, and now he's buried in 30th. Same driver, same season, completely different story. And I couldn't stop asking myself one question: is this about the driver, or is this about the car? Because when a driver of that caliber swings that wildly from one weekend to the next, the answer stops being simple. And that's exactly what made Michigan impossible to ignore. Let's go back to Watkins Glen first, because to understand how far the drop felt, you have to understand how high the peak was. At Watkins Glen, SVG wasn't just competitive, he was dominant, elite-level execution, a driver operating with complete control and zero doubt. The kind of performance that makes the entire garage take notice. At Stock Car Central put it plainly, SVG is still learning NASCAR. That's why some fans think his best years might still be ahead of him. That reaction was everywhere. Fans were energized, media was locked in, the narrative was building, and it was building fast. Then came Michigan, qualifying position, 30th, and it wasn't just SVG. All three Trackhouse entries struggled in qualifying. The entire organization suddenly looked exposed in a way nobody had prepared for. As @Bob Pockcrass flagged, the problem wasn't isolated to one driver. It was Trackhouse-wide qualifying failure. That detail matters more than people initially gave it credit for. This wasn't just a bad weekend for one driver. This was a warning sign for an entire organization. NASCAR Racing Central is closing in on 1 viewers and subscribers, and if this breakdown is hitting different for you right now, this is the moment. Subscribe, hit that like, drop a comment, and share this video with someone who follows NASCAR. Every single one of those actions keeps this channel growing and keeps this content coming. Now here's the part that should make every Trackhouse fan uncomfortable. This wasn't the first time. Every time SVG built real momentum, something interrupted it. Setup, track type, execution. The pattern kept repeating. @NASCAR on Fox framed the frustration directly. One week you're dominating Watkins Glen, the next you're fighting a car outside the top 25. Is this a driver issue or an equipment issue? That question sat in the air because nobody had a clean answer, and it led directly to a harder conversation about Trackhouse's identity. They market themselves as NASCAR's bold challenger, the innovative disruptor. But can an innovator consistently match a powerhouse when the pressure is on? @Racing Critic cut straight to it. Consistency wins championships. Talent alone doesn't. And that's the line that reframes everything, because SVG's talent was never the debate. The debate became whether his current situation was built to maximize it. What if SVG has already outgrown the answer Trackhouse can give him? That question opened a door. And through that door walked a name that carries more weight in NASCAR than almost any other: Hendrick Motorsports. Don't rush this. HMS didn't enter the conversation loudly. It entered the way it always does in these situations, quietly, then suddenly everywhere. What Hendrick Motorsports represents is documented in championships, engineering depth, sponsor infrastructure, and organizational dominance across decades. It is the benchmark every team in the sport measures itself against. And critically, @Jordan Bianchi made something clear that the entire conversation hinged on. The Hendrick speculation isn't based on reports. It's based on perception. That's an important distinction. Nobody inside was leaking anything. But perception in NASCAR travels faster than radio traffic. @Jeff Gluck said it best. The most interesting thing about SVG's Michigan weekend isn't where he finished. It's how quickly the conversation shifted toward what he'd look like in top-tier equipment every single week. Fans weren't just reacting to a bad result. They were projecting a better future, one where SVG wasn't fighting equipment. @NASCAR fans captured the sentiment exactly. If SVG can destroy the field at Watkins Glen, imagine what happens when he gets a car that's fast every single weekend. That's not frustration, that's desire. And it's contagious. SVG himself gave the media nothing. No drama, no hints. He stayed professional, composed, and focused through all of it. But here's the paradox. His silence made everything louder. When a driver at his level says nothing, fans fill the gap. And NASCAR fans filled that gap with an entire alternate reality built on potential. @Dale Jr. weighed in, and when Dale Earnhardt Jr. speaks about a driver publicly, the garage listens. Every now and then you see a driver who flashes something special. SVG keeps having those moments. The question now is whether the team can consistently match that level. That wasn't a call for SVG to leave Trackhouse. But framed that way, by that name, it hardened a question that was already circulating. SVG's composure wasn't satisfaction. It read like patience, and patience in a race car can mean 100 different things. Here's what's fair to say about Trackhouse. They built something real. They found SVG, developed him on ovals from near zero, and gave him a platform to show this sport what he was capable of. That's not nothing, that's significant. But success generates its own pressure. Once expectations rise to a certain level, anything short of consistent excellence starts to register as failure, fair or not. At Checkered Flag Fan put the challenge plainly. Trackhouse built a star. Now they have to prove they can consistently give that star championship caliber speed. At Trackhouse Talk addressed the feedback loop directly. Fair or unfair, every Trackhouse struggle generates another wave of SVG to Hendrick speculation. The uncomfortable organisational question: whether Trackhouse has the same engineering depth as Hendrick Motorsports, isn't something anyone inside the team will answer publicly, but the fans and media asking it aren't inside. At Race Hub Live closed the loop. Michigan didn't create the SVG to Hendrick rumours. It simply gave everyone another reason to talk about them. Pull the lens back further and SVG isn't just a storyline. He's one of NASCAR's most important crossover assets. International credibility, elite talent, a personality that connects beyond the core fan base. Every result he puts up now carries weight beyond race position. At SiriusXM NASCAR captured the garage temperature. The garage knows talent when it sees it. What Michigan did was reignite questions about how high SVG's ceiling really is. Michigan forced 4 competing interests into the same room simultaneously. What drivers want, which is opportunity. What teams want, which is stability. What sponsors want, which is exposure. And what owners want, which is loyalty. At Pit Road Report tracked where fan conversation had moved. Fans have officially moved beyond asking whether SVG belongs in NASCAR. They're now asking whether NASCAR's biggest teams should be preparing for him. That shift is significant. Michigan didn't just expose a problem at Trackhouse, it exposed a question NASCAR itself hasn't answered yet. Nobody knows what SVG's future actually holds, and that's not a disclaimer, that's the most honest thing anyone can say right now. 3 futures exist. Trackhouse solves the consistency problem and SVG wins championships there. SVG quietly outgrows the situation and the sport watches it happen in real time. Or something bigger moves. And Michigan is remembered as the weekend the conversation became impossible to stop. At Dirty Mo Media identified exactly where the debate has landed. Fans are no longer debating SVG's talent. They're debating whether his current situation is maximising it. At Garage Area 51 put a number on the durability of the question. Every difficult SVG weekend now creates the same reaction. What would he do in a Hendrick car? That question isn't going away anytime soon. Michigan changed nothing officially, but it changed everything in terms of what people are now willing to say out loud. Trackhouse built Shane Van Gisbergen into one of NASCAR's biggest stories. The question nobody can answer right now is whether they can finish what they started. If you've made it this far, you already know how layered this storyline is. Drop a comment below. Do you think Trackhouse has the resources to keep SVG long-term, or is this the beginning of something bigger? And share this video with any NASCAR fan who's been sleeping on this story. They need to see it. If you enjoy real NASCAR breakdowns like this, you'll like what's coming next.